Afternoon. This public hearing conducted by the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudication will now come to order. Notice of the public hearing was disseminated to all local media outlets via electronic format on September the 21st, with a second notice provided on September the 27th. Notice of this hearing was also made known on the Guam Legislature's website. Today we have one bill being heard. It's Bill 317-33. Introduced by Senator Rodriguez, and I'll allow him to make a short opening statement, and then we'll hear testimony.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you also for the opportunity to hear public testimony on Bill 317. Bill 317 is an act to appropriate up to $72,500 from the fiscal year 2017 General Fund revenues for Guam's membership into the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education relative to providing affordable tuition rates for Guam's undergraduate students at over 150 institutions who are part of the Wichi network. Mr. Chairman, this was introduced early in the year, sometime in May, in the hopes that we were able to perhaps include it in the recently passed fiscal year 2017 budget. And so I'll work with your committee, Mr. Chairman, to make a determination of where we will be able to perhaps identify a revenue source for this, because as you know that the fiscal 2017 budget has passed and every dollar is accounted for, but I'll work very closely with you to be able to identify where we can pull from. I also want to recognize one of the interns who worked in my office during the summer and really who helped put this together. He's in the audience today, Mr. Marco Jacob. Marco, thank you very much. He's a senior at Father Duenas. He worked in my office over the summer and took the lead in getting me to really buy into this, get excited about it, and move it forward. As you know, too, Mr. Chairman, about 2 years ago, this body passed a resolution supporting Guam's membership into Wichi. And so what this bill does really is just take us to the finish line and really get us to be able to start getting our students here affordable tuition rates at public colleges, especially for those that are not programs that are not offered here on Guam. I got to say, UOG is as they say, the natural choice. I have a 20-year-old daughter who is there in her second year. Very proud that she's at UOG, and that we'll continue to have that as our university and continue to support our university. But this really is really looking at the bigger picture and being able to get our students and their parents who support them affordable tuition rates, and at the very end, making them be able to come back home here and bear the fruits of their labor. So look forward to the testimony today. Thank you.
Thank you, and I note that President Underwood has another commitment, and so I'll allow him to testify first and then excuse him.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Senator Rodriguez, and I really want to congratulate all the interest here that is pretty obvious from the presence of the students, and congratulate them in advance for their testimony. Dear Senator Cruz, on behalf of the University of Guam, I want to make sure that the Guam legislature, as the policy-making body for the entire government of Guam, fully comprehends our sentiments on Guam's participation in the Western Interstate Commission on Higher Education, more commonly known as Wichi. The university supports the participation of Guam in Wichi. Participation in Wichi will afford Guam students the opportunity to attend professional and graduate schools for programs which do not exist in Guam. This is a worthwhile network and can be of enormous benefit to our island, especially in programs for medical and legal professions and highly specialized degrees. This is also a benefit for reduced tuition for undergraduate programs in cooperating institutions. It is important to note that undergraduate program participation is generally capped so that the benefit may not be as extensive as some may believe. I'm just adding that as a word of caution. Attending off-island universities and colleges has been seen in recent years as a personal decision, which the government of Guam does not support except in professional and graduate programs, which do not exist at the Guam Community College or the University of Guam. This is how the SFAP program is designed. This policy is meant to encourage attendance at local institutions. It is also important to note that only 1/3 of off-island university attendees actually return to the island. I know you and I are examples of coming back, but many of our friends and colleagues never came back. The figures are different if they attend the University of Guam. In this case, some 70% of the students who graduate from UOG remain in Guam and the region for their professional lives. I point this out only to again point out the role that the University of Guam plays in preparing the base professions for the region. Guam should be part of the Wichi network and attempt to work on some of these issues in order to build a stronger professional base for our island in the future. The financial cost of participation in Wichi is pretty minimal. However, you should also consider the fact that GCC and UOG, and I have GCC's permission to point this out, have received only 60% of their budget allotments for fiscal year 2016 as we face the final day tomorrow. This is a pattern that will likely continue even with the recently passed budget for fiscal year 2017. It would send a positive signal to your own post-secondary institutions that you will not allow the release of funds for Wichi until budget allocations are current. Thank you for this opportunity to present my thoughts.
Thank you very much, President Underwood. And unless you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll see you in an hour and a half.
Okay. Thank you for your indulgence.
We're both going to the same function.
Thank you.
Let's see. Mr. Jacobs already here. Mr. Lujan. Parent Arlene. Did you want to testify? Orally or just, do you have written testimony? You're satisfied with that? You'll submit on written? Okay. Mr. Marco Jacob, did you want to testify? Please, come on up. Okay. We'll start with Mr. Jacob Sr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Rodriguez. Very much appreciated that you're holding this hearing and considering what is a very important matter. First of all, just a little bit of background. You can tell this is my son. So as a dad, I have a lot of interest in this, and you'll see a lot of moms and dads in the audience today expressing their support because of a reality that college costs a lot of money. And I'm going to show a presentation that gives, in a very brief time, an overview of the dangers of college debt and how Wichi addresses that in a way that I think everybody in Guam can get behind. I want to thank Dr. Underwood for supporting Wichi. I think it's really important to take the words to heart of his testimony that programs like this are about capacity building. And when Mr. Chairman and your colleagues see some good statistics, and I want to point out a letter from Wichi itself, the president of Wichi that's being submitted, has real important information in it about how Wichi furthers the goal. One of them is an interesting statistic about Guam itself, which indicated that 26% of Guam residents hold associate's degrees or higher, but the U.S. average is 39%. So it's important to work with all of our available institutions of higher learning, UOG and GCC, and those that give us capability, particularly these 160 universities and colleges in the Western United States. So this is about capacity building, and I just want to say an amen to what Dr. Underwood expressed about their budget allocations, because it's really important about making sure that this priority of higher education is always addressed in a really growing, struggling world. The other two things I just want you to know about my background is that I sat on the Board of Regents at Georgetown University for 6 years, and my term ended 18 months ago. We at that private university in Washington, D.C., were dealing with issues of $50,000 to $60,000 of just tuition, meaning private education could cost as much as $250,000 for just a college degree. And that was very difficult for us to deal with because we knew that debt was crushing the dreams of our kids. And Consumer Reports came out just last month with this headline that says, "I kind of ruined my life by going to college." And it's all about debt and the realities of that debt and what we're trying to address. The last bit of background, and you'll see how it ties in, is that I am currently the chairman of the board of Xavier High School in Chuk, which is a 60-year-old iconic Jesuit Catholic high school on the island of Chuk that has educated citizens from the FSM in our region for a long, long time. And our struggle is, how do we get those kids into four-year schools that offer important degrees that are capacity builders for our region? You will be happy to find that Wichi has offered membership to all of the island governments in a way that actually will end up reducing our costs on Guam. So with that, let me just turn to this screen. And Wichi's moniker is Access, Collaboration, and Innovation. I want to talk a little bit about key facts about student loans. And this is from Oscar Miyashita, CPA on Guam for many years, who took an interest in this very issue because of the need for real important college counseling. 42 million people owe $1.3 trillion of student debt. It's a $140 billion a year industry. Student loans continue to grow. You cannot discharge student loans in bankruptcy. And here are the difficult, real statistics. For those that have huge student loans, 44% of our graduates are cutting back on day-to-day living expenses, 37% delayed savings for retirement, 28% delayed buying a house, and 12% delayed marriage. And almost half would reduce student loans if they had to do it all over again. In other words, they would rethink about the kind of college that they were going to go to. Other key facts: the average state school cost of attendance is about $80,000 for 4 years, and private schools about $180,000. I would say that's a little low on the private schools. Huge for 4 years, huge. In 2016, the average student debt was $37,000, and I've credited this to Mr. Miyashita, whose slides these are, and he feels that it's much, much higher for kids from Guam. 70% of college graduates leave with debt. So we need to address this. If you to the next slide. So here are some solutions. In the counseling I do with a number of our high school students, we try to break a myth. And that myth is, should I get into the best school I possibly can? If I can get into Stanford or Cornell or Harvard or the world's best university in the world, which is Georgetown, rah-rah, should we do it, right? And the answer is no. What we're telling kids is, students, young men and women, that the way to think about it is find the best school for you that will offer you the most money. So you're graduating and using those funds to bring back home and to live your dreams, live the dream of a higher education. A solution is regional tuition discount programs, which is today's topic, Wichi. And the other is scholarships and grants, which is another study. And I know Father Duenas, college counselor, Mr. Ismael Paris is here, and he teaches the kids all of this, and especially about how to get scholarships and grants and how to look for the right fit of schools. So those are our solutions. And as we talk about, go ahead and next slide, please. we talk about Wichi. Wichi, there are several divisions of Wichi. The one we'll talk about is the Western Undergraduate Exchange Program. And this is what it is in a nutshell. This is for undergrads. It's to provide undergraduate students the opportunities to attend out-of-state schools, off-island schools in our case. There are 15 participating states, and the number of institutions is now higher since this slide was developed. It's more than 160 institutions. It reduces out-of-state tuition to 150% of in-state tuition. Now, what that means is you save, on average, $8,000 to $15,000 a year. So if you are attending, I think Marco might be able to correct me, but the homeschool in my hometown in Tucson, University of Arizona, out-of-state tuition is $30,000, in-state's $10,000. So a student, a WUI student, would pay 150% of in-state tuition, so about $15,000. They would save $15,000 a year. Times 4 is $60,000. That is more than the average college graduate's income for 1 year. So by using programs like this, you can see enormous savings are passed on. Numerous 2-year and 4-year colleges, so there's all kinds of options. Most undergraduate fields are available, and it's as affordable as it can be for students that we have in our community. This is what the region looks like with Guam in it. And you can see it's the western states. And the reason, and I'm from Arizona, southern Arizona, and I don't remember Wichi exactly, but I remember collaborations between the states when I was growing up, because we had huge capacity problems. If somebody wanted to be an astronomer or a mining engineer, they would come to Tucson or Colorado. If they wanted to be an astronautical engineer, they would go to California. And what this consortium did since the 1950s, so this has been in place since the 50s, they have been exchanging students between the states for building workforces. And it's been successful. And you can see from the letter from Wichi that the number of students today are quite significant. There are 37,700 students enrolled in the undergraduate, graduate, and professional health care programs outside of their states, with a savings of almost $350 million a year to those families in the region. These are some representative schools. The University of Hawaii, there are 4 or 5 in Hawaii. Manoa and Hilo are among them. Washington State University and UNLV, University of Nevada at Las Vegas. I mentioned the savings. This was for 13-14. It's just above $250 million. We have the current number for 15-16, which is $343.3 million. So real savings to real people and real families. This is a difficult to read slide, but this is all on the Wichi website, and it indicates the savings at all of the universities in the consortium. And I just highlighted the University of Hawaii at Manoa because that's a place where a lot of our kids look to. And the in-state, I'll read it because it's hard to read on the screen. In-state tuition is $10,344. Out-of-state tuition is $30,696. The WUI rate is $15,516, and the calculated savings to going to Manoa is $15,108. So a logical place for our kids that don't go to UOG or GCC and choose the University of Hawaii will save $15,000 a year. That's $60,000 over 4 years. And so you can see the impact is huge. And that debt, and I want to say one other thing about who bears the burden of this debt. Of course, it's the student if they take student loans. But oftentimes, as Mr. Miyashita told me, it's families that are incurring that debt and eating into their retirement. And he advises against that. He says, you know, you've got to be smart about your choices of college. Yes, it's true, a college education will serve you in a higher income bracket without a doubt, but families can't look to their retirements, because who's going to take care of the families when kids are working like we are and we're retired? So these savings have important impacts to families, but that's an example. All right. Now I want to talk a little bit about something that's really near and dear to my heart, but important as we talk about Wichi. Given that I'm the chairman of Xavier High School, we're always worried about where our kids are going to go to school. We want capacity. We want open doors, and that's what this is. Wichi designed the membership for us, the island governments, to include these jurisdictions. So there are 6 jurisdictions. The Cnmi, which is a member now, Guam, the Marshalls, Palau, the FSM, and Samoa, all can join the same membership. And if you go to the next slide, here is the great design that they gave us, is that as more island governments join, the annual membership for the island community decreases proportionally. So the Cnmi is bearing the full membership now. Guam, the reason why this bill is asking for $72,500 is because it would be half. It would be sharing with the Cnmi. I charged our board at Xavier, given our representation throughout the islands, to work with the island governments following, and I don't want to be presumptuous, but I'm hopeful that Guam will pass this allocation and we become a member, but to follow on with Guam so that in the next year we can see a couple more island governments come on. And if, for example, all of us in Micronesia join, that would be 5. Our annual contribution would be $29,000 annually. And I think that that's very realistic, because the island governments, at least what I hear through my board, are very, very eager to be able to send their kids, to have choices for their kids, like we do here as well. So if I could get the next slide, is real benefits to the Cnmi. I addressed the first point, which is the annual fee. Cnmi is paying all of it. They paid all of it, I believe, for 3, this is their 3rd year. In their first year, they sent 19 students and their savings was $165,000. And in the current letter with the current statistics, they're now sending 20 students and their savings is $199,000. And they have one in the graduate program. So it really has been paying off in a real world way with the Cnmi. Okay, so before you go on to the next slide, I want to just address a couple of quick points, and then, of course, I'm available for further comment or any questions. But we've talked about the undergraduate program, and there's another component to what these fees pay, and it's addressed in the letter. It's to the Western Regional Graduate Program. So graduates in 410 graduate programs at 60 institutions can avail of in-state tuition. So students will not be, graduate students won't be paying out-of-state tuition of $20,000 to $30,000. Instead of the 150% for undergrad, graduates get to go at resident tuition. It's a fantastic option, and something, Mr. Chairman, may be near to your heart as it is mine. There's one JD program now, and it's at Manoa. It just signed up, and the statistics are really phenomenal. Residency tuition for law school is $22,000 at the University of Hawaii, but for non-residents, it's $45,000. And I mean, you know, that many of our judges and lawyers that are now my contemporaries went there on residency tuition. There was reciprocity back in the 80s, and they availed of that. Now, with this program, there is something akin to reciprocity. Okay, so I wanted to make sure we hit that. And I also want to say there's a real-life example of that, and I asked permission of of Troy Fuggerger's mom before I said this, because she wanted people to know, is that Troy, who's in law school at the University of Hawaii right now, had to sit out a year to gain residency tuition. And I said, you know, Mary, I said, wow. I said, imagine if he was able to avail of this last year, he would graduate, and I know Troy wants to come back here and practice law. So, you know, we missed the Troy, but Troy's a real example. We'd have another lawyer practicing here a year earlier, and so we can build on that. You know, we make this available to these really bright, incredible kids that want to come back. All right. Some things that Senator Rodriguez asked me to point out, which is really important, is fact. Not all programs and majors are available at all schools. You have to do your research in these programs. So you've got to go online to see what's available. Example, unfortunately for Marco, who might be interested in the University of Arizona, going back where his grandpa went to school, the only major offered there is mining engineering. Okay, so he may not sign up for mining engineering, so his degrees may have to look at another university. But for example, University of Las Vegas at Nevada, they have almost every degree you can imagine. Hawaii is the same way. Colorado State I looked at. Great programs like nanoscience, computer engineering, things like that. You have to be a good student to get this fabulous discount. So we have to search, but we did want to point out that for those that might think everything's available at every university, that's not true. But there is a huge amount available in this program justifying its fee. The second is that some universities have caps, so people will need to go in to find what that is and apply early. And last, I want to point out that I was very surprised at the University of Hawaii, the Pacific Island Scholarship Exemption, which I was Googling the other day, because the Pacific Island Scholarship Exemption at the University of Hawaii offers 150% in-state tuition to students from the Pacific Islands. But I found out Guam is exempted from the Pacific Island Scholarship Exemption. So kids from the far away, as now we know because of FESPAC, Wallis and Futuna Islands, literally can get 150% of University of Hawaii. So can the Cnmi and Samoa and the FSM. But we can't. This actually supplements that and gives us the same rates. All right? So my last slide. And I want to also just acknowledge, you know, the parents and the students who we've all been working with, and of course my son Marco, who really was my inspiration in doing this. And thank you, Senator Rodriguez, for bringing it to the floor, and Senator Cruz Vice Speaker Cruz for letting us speak and really giving us this consideration. It's very, very important. It's about capacity building, and it's about our future, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and I hope that this body will adopt it.
Thank you, and we'll hear the rest of the testimony. Don't leave, because I may have some questions.
Okay, sure.
Mr. Lujan?
Yes. Good evening, Senator Cruz, Senator Rodriguez. My name is James Lujan. I am with the Guam Federation of Teachers. I believe they submitted a formal testimony in support of this bill. I'm also a candidate for the Guam Educational Board this coming election, 2016. I am in support of this membership based on my experience and possibly hundreds who have sought higher education not offered on Guam in past time. Futuristically, this membership will open doors of opportunity to the thousands of families who plan and provide an education foundation for their children. In addition, it expands the school district's option of incentive to offer graduating high school students seeking higher learning vocations and specific fields of interest beyond our borders. Finally, membership may define reciprocity for Guam in the United States of America. In my experience, I sought a master's degree in athletic administration in the mainland twice in separate years. I had acquired graduate credits equivalent to having a master's. The first time, I received a professional technical award from the University of Guam to Nevada, Las Vegas. I took 1 year unpaid leave from my teaching profession to attend fall classes. The agreements governing the awards were specific. That meant the dollar amount of the award given was set to the amount it will cost me to accomplish my degree. While waiting in Las Vegas for registration day, the University of Las Vegas had approved a tuition hike several months after their basketball team won the national championship. That was sometime around 1990. This event might not have or might have affected the tuition hike at the time, but I kind of used it as an excuse. However, the increase were tremendously higher than the amount of my award and what I could have paid for on my expense, knowing I have 1 year to accomplish. So I packed my bags and went home. The second time I attended Northwest Missouri State in Missouri. This time I saved a large amount of money and I took a 1 year unpaid leave from my teaching profession again. Tuition was much cheaper than the University of Guam, but I had to pay for the out-of-state fees that equal the cost of the credits in this venture. I was several classes and half a thesis short of graduating. I came home and got married and never went back. Out-of-state tuition fees can be equal or be more than the actual cost of credits. Reciprocity can be very helpful for those who seek higher education and can be rewarding economically in this intellectual for our island. As a representative as my representative in the 33rd Guam legislature, I graciously ask all senators their support, endorsement, and approval of Bill 317-33. In another note, speaking with my experience, reciprocity in the United States would be great for us. Not only because our kids get to go to school over there and reap the rewards of the benefits that the schools over there offer, but it also can extend back to us, and that's what reciprocity is that you share the benefits. And I believe funding this bill would do exactly that in the future. Where we can set up our athletic programs, our social programs, for example, band, people who have talent on the island that can actually get scholarships from those universities, and not just relying on scholarships from Guam or just having being in the top 10 of merit, but they can actually apply using other talents that they have. And in the same respect, we can probably be a feeder system to some of those schools, and that would be good for our families, which I believe the outer islands are trying to do for their citizens. That's why they're on Guam, and that's the base that I'm looking at. It was hard for me to go out there and go to school. I don't come from a rich family. I did it on my own. I raised my own money and I left. But it was still tough because I had to live in order to go to school over there. So I feel for this bill, personally, on a personal note. I'd like to extend congratulations to these kids who are trying to find a way to get themselves educated. I hope they come back, because that's the whole mission to sending them off for a better education. On the bright side or the intelligent side of things, it would be good for Guam, because then we have the adults who would like to seek higher education and return. And I believe in terms of the academic world, it's advisable that when you go around looking for jobs, you would like to have that cloud of having experience from different learning institutions, not just one solely. Unlike here on Guam, a great portion of the adults who stay on the island and go to school at the university end up getting their masters and their doctorates at the University of Guam. Not to say that that's bad, but the enrichment value pretty much almost stays the same. compared to leaving island and getting themselves absorbed into different types of environments and communities out there, and bringing back the knowledge to Guam. We always state that, we need, our talent seems to leave, and we seem to not want to hire anybody else but local. But yet we still look outside of Guam to absorb better ways of doing things for our community. Maybe this is the way. Reciprocity is to get our kids to go out there and learn what's out there and bring it back. Hopefully we can design a way that we can ensure that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jacob.
Good evening, Vice Speaker Cruz and Senator Dennis Rodriguez. I have a letter from Guam students in support of Bill number 317-33 for Wichi membership to support affordable tuition. Dear Vice Speaker Cruz, we respectfully write to you as student leaders in Guam schools to request that the legislature approve Bill number 317-33, which will cement Guam's membership in the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education. We would like to thank Senator Rodriguez, Senator McCreadie, Senator Muña Barnes, and Senator Respicio for sponsoring Bill number 317-33 to help make higher education tuition affordable and to provide us access to major universities and college majors through Wichi. Since the 1950s, Wichi has offered access and affordability to students throughout the western United States, including the Cnmi and 16 states. Wichi has approved Guam's membership, and the only thing needed to allow us access to Wichi benefits is for Guam to pay the Wichi membership fee. The amount of the dues for Guam is $72,500 because we will split the membership fee with the Cnmi. We hope you will agree that this is a small investment that will pay big dividends for our students and families, and one that will allow us to get an off-island education and return home to Guam to share our knowledge and experience for the continuous improvement of our island. Wichi Undergraduate program allows students to attend 2- and 4-year colleges for 150% of in-state tuition. Given the high cost of education, this reduced tuition translates to about $10,000 to $20,000 a year per student. Over 4 years, this means $40,000 to $80,000 in savings for local students pursuing an education off-island. The cost of a higher education is growing each year, and there are approximately 150 WUI schools to choose from and an incredibly wide range of majors which may be pursued. While we are grateful that we have access to education loans, the reality is that college debt is crushing the dreams that come with a college degree and sometimes puts even more pressure on our hardworking families, especially when a family has more than one student who wants to go to college. College debt today has caused graduates to delay buying a home, getting married, starting a family, investing in retirement, and has prevented young people from pursuing small business dreams. For us on Guam, being able to ensure lower costs for off-island education will help us return home, as we will not have to be concerned about looking to higher paying jobs in the mainland or Hawaii. Wichi gives us the opportunity to pursue our educational dreams without leveraging our future for our education. We hope to have the same access and opportunity as our friends in the Cnmi. In the first year as a Wichi member, the Cnmi saved just 19 students approximately $165,000. This amount greatly exceeds the cost of the shared annual membership for Guam's inclusion. We thank you for your consideration of our request, and we hope that our legislature will pass Bill 317-33. And I also have a letter from the Wichi president. It reads, Dear Senator Rodriguez, I understand that a public hearing will be held on September 29th before the bill approving an appropriation for Wichi membership dues is voted on in the Senate. I am writing to provide information about organization for you to share with your colleagues. The Western Regional Education Compact, approved by Congress and signed into law in 1953, created the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education. Wichi is a 16-member regional commission working to boost access to higher education for students and to facilitate the sharing of higher education resources in the Western United States. As you know, the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands joined Wichi in 2012. We hope to officially welcome Guam as Wichi's newest member as part of the U.S. Pacific Territories and freely associated states membership. Wichi offers a broad menu of programs to help residents of its member states achieve their higher education goals and meet workforce needs. Wichi's programs address affordable access to undergraduate, graduate, and professional healthcare education, the practice, policy, and advocacy of technology-enhanced learning in higher education policy for informed decision-making, access to advocacy for state higher education institutions at the national level, access to multi-state longitudinal data exchange system to better understand state residents' education and migration patterns, member forums to strategize on common issues of credit transfer, data governance, analysis, and management, and also a wide range of other benefits tailored to the needs of individuals. Benefits of the Wichi membership. We anticipate Guam's most visible and immediate benefit will be your residents' access to Wichi's student exchange program known as SEP. It provides students with access to out-of-state higher education options at a significant tuition savings. More than 37,700 students enrolled in undergraduate, graduate, and professional healthcare programs outside their home through SEP saved $343.3 million in 2015. Each program is described below. The Western Undergraduate Exchange Program, also known as WUI. WUI is a tuition discount program for undergraduate students preparing certificates, associate's, or bachelor's degrees outside of their home state. WUI institutions offer all or most of their majors at 150% or less of their resident tuition rate, rather than at the general much higher non-resident rate. Some 160 public institutions in the Wichi region participate. In 2015 and 2016, 35,600 WUI students saved more than $308.8 million in tuition. Depending on the enrolling institution's tuition, a student can save up to $16,000 on 1 year's tuition bill, but the average saving per student was $8,667. The WUI program is particularly helpful to students who want to pursue an academic program that may not be available in their home state, such as scientific, medical, or engineering programs. Your Wichi membership provides access to WUI for residents. There are no additional fees, and students pay their own discounted tuition. The Western Regional Graduate Program, the WRGP, is a tuition discount program for graduate students preparing graduate certificates, master's, and doctoral degrees outside of their home state. Some 410 graduate programs at 60 institutions in the Wichi region participate. In 2015 and 2016, 1,439 students paid resident tuition and saved $21.1 million. The average graduate student saved $14,630. Your Wichi membership provides access to the WRGP for your residents. There are no additional fees, and students pay their own resident tuition. Most WRGP programs are offered as traditional on-campus programs. However, some are delivered online or in a hybrid format that combines online and on-campus delivery. The Professional Student Exchange Program, PSEP, provides students affordable access to costly professional healthcare programs that aren't offered by a public institution in the student's home state. The student's home state pays a support fee to the enrolling institution to buy down tuition costs. Participating states legislate funding. Each state determines the number of students they wish to support and which healthcare fields are needed to their local workforce. If Guam joins Wichi, PSEP offers a tremendous opportunity to educate healthcare professionals who will return to Guam and serve its residents. Most Wichi states require their PSEP scholarship recipients to return home and practice in their profession, typically for 4 years. Advancing higher education. For more than 60 years, the ethos of Wichi and its program is this: sharing higher education resources and collaboration makes all of our members stronger. According to the 2010 U.S. Census, only 26% of Guam residents hold an associate's degree or higher. Working together, Wichi's goal is to increase the percentage of college-educated Guam citizens to match the U.S. average of 39%. Significant numbers of students seek education off-island. According to the most current IPEDS 2014 data, 190 first-time students from Guam enrolled on the mainland. From the number, we could estimate that more than 600 Guam residents study off-island in any given year. Wichi's exchange program could significantly reduce their student debt because Guam residents would no longer have to pay non-resident tuition. We also noticed that many students from Guam are enrolled at private institutions. Wichi's programs give them access to some 160 public institutions that provide quality higher education at very affordable rates. Reducing Guam's graduate student debt will likely incentivize them to return to Guam and serve the local community. Furthermore, WUI and WRGP will give Guam residents access to programs not available locally and reduce Guam's dependence on foreign workers. There are a myriad of fields of study that would contribute to the growing workforce needed in Guam, particularly in healthcare, engineering, and construction management. WRGP is also an opportunity for Guam's educators to increase their educational credentials. We strongly believe that focused collaboration and interaction with the Wichi states will create new opportunities for Guam's faculty and professional, and over the long term, improve Guam's healthcare system and thereby reduce the outmigration of families seeking specialized healthcare on the mainland. Guam's local institutions of higher learning do not have to participate in WUI and WRGP as enrolling institutions. They are eligible, and we would encourage them to do so. Cnmi's Northern Marianas College joined WUI and uses the program to fill seats in majors where they have excess capacity. Most of our participating institutions find that they benefit from incoming students to a degree that more than offsets any potential loss of residential students. Wichi students exchange savings and return on investment projections for Guam. To get an idea of how much Guam residents might save using Wichi's WUI and WRGP programs, Wichi staff pulled the most current IPEDS enrollment data available for first-time degree-seeking undergraduate students. In fall 2014, 190 Guam residents enrolled on the mainland. Of those, 60 freshmen enrolled in institutions outside of the Wichi region. The majority, 130 freshmen, enrolled at institutions located in the Wichi region. Extrapolating from the 2014 IPEDS data to estimate the total number of students enrolled, we could assume that a total of 46 Guam residents might enroll at a WUI institution in a given year. Taking the 2014-2015 WUI savings data, we calculated that Guam residents paid $484,488 more for their undergraduate education than they would have paid if Guam were a member of Wichi. Guam's portion of Wichi membership cost $72,500 for the fiscal year 17. If we subtract the cost of Wichi dues from potential WUI savings for Guam residents, Guam is ahead financially $411,988. Of course, we would also expect that even more Guam residents might take advantage of the opportunity to pursue a program of study outside of Guam as the student exchange programs become more widely known, so the savings would likely increase each year. And lastly, the Cnmi's Wichi experience. After only 3 short years as a Wichi member, the Cnmi is quickly recognizing a significant return on investment. In 2015-2016, Cnmi enrolled 20 students through WUI who saved $199,343 on their tuition bill, and 1 WRGP graduate student who saved approximately $14,630. Furthermore, thanks to the reduced tuition rates offered through WUI and WRGP, The CNMI Scholarship Office can assist more students than before, despite its limited funds. CNMI is also working on legislation to provide state funding to support students preparing their professional healthcare degree at reduced cost through Wichi's PSEP. They anticipate creating a return for service provision whereby professional health care graduates must return to the CNMI and serve for approximately 4 years. This will assure that funded students will return and give back to the local community after they graduate. Please let me know if you have any questions or if I can be of further assistance as you evaluate the benefits of Wichi membership. We hope to welcome Guam as our newest member this fall. Sincerely, Joseph A. Garcia, the president of Wichi. Thank you.
Jacob, thank you very much for reading that into the record, because I'm sure that the listening audience needed to know all that information. So thank you for reading that into the record. And it answered every question that I had. So unless you had any.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to make it clear, too, Guam has had a conditional approval, right? And so I just want to just get that for the record, too, in terms of who would benefit if and when we do pass this and get them the payment for the fee. Are the students in the system now and perhaps Wichi school is going to benefit immediately? Is that your understanding?
Yeah. Well, first of all, that is you expressed what I think is the good news, is that Guam's membership has been approved subject to the funding. So CNMI did the hard work first to get the membership, and then in the springtime, Wichi approved Guam subject to funding. So really all it is the, I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's the payment of the funds, and then we're in. And the other questions you asked is who qualifies. 2017-18 freshmen qualify for 4 years going forward. Those in the system do not automatically qualify, but Wichi has given us assurances that they will encourage the institutions that enroll our students that are in the system, encourage them to avail of a one-time WUI discount because we just joined. So the answer to your question is, it's not for sure for those in the system, but there'll be a lot of help and a lot of momentum to get them in. And I would just say we're better off with it, trying to encourage that scholarship money, than without it, leaving them out there without that option. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah.
And I think this conditional membership with possibilities, I got an email from a parent who says that her daughter at Manoa is already getting the benefit. So
good.
The parent was trying to figure out how that happened, but she was glad and she was supportive of the legislation.
Well, that's terrific news. That's great news.
Yeah, it was. Not sure why, but my daughter was already offered the benefit of this program at UH, seemingly without the need for the bill, but I support it.
Terrific.
You know, I think what may happen, because if you go to the Wichi's website, Guam is indicated already as a member. And so if the admissions office could take a look at that and say, well, you're from Guam? Okay. Not knowing what the details are, really.
Right.
So, yeah. And also, I want to just recognize Eric Palacios, who works with the governor on education and really helped move this forward after we did that resolution 2 years ago, and working with you folks in trying to get that application, and really which the Wichi understands is conditional, is subject to this approval as well. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Lujan. Thank you, Mr. Jacob and Mr. Jacob.
Thank you, Vice Speaker.
I have signed up to give oral testimony Mr. Derek Baza-Hill, Mr. Robert Kelly, and Mr. Michael Pangilinan. Please. why don't you go ahead and we'll start with you, Mr. Pengley.
Thank you, Mr. Vice.
Turn on, make sure you're on. The red light.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Vice Speaker, Vice Speaker Cruz and Senator Rodriguez. I want to thank you very much for introducing this Bill 317-33. I think the father and son team from the Jacob family really gave such a great presentation with so much detail that I don't really have a heck of a lot to add in terms of substance. But just to give my own personal comments in support of this effort, just my own personal experience. You know, I've lived. Oh, my name is Michael Pangolin, by the way. I've lived in Guam for most of my life, but I spent most of my school years in California, where I grew up. And I went to a public university in California, and because of the fact that I was a California resident, I had in-state tuition, and my parents didn't have money to give me for college, so I had to put myself through school, through tuition, and through working full-time. But I was able to get through school and get my undergraduate degree without any student debt. And I think that when I look back on that, it was a lot of hard work. But the reason I was in the position to do that is because I went to a public university with in-state tuition. And I know from stories from a lot of my friends who came from Guam and went to school in the States that didn't have that. You know, they came out of school with a lot more undergraduate debt than I did. And I can't imagine the pressure that is on a student that gets out of school with that kind of debt. Just as Mr. Jacob mentioned, you know, the opportunities that you may have to pass up because you're focused on having to make choices in life just based on how much money you're going to get paid so you can afford to pay back all the debt that you're under. I look back on my experience and I just think this legislation is really, what's great about it is that it provides tangible, immediate, and direct benefit to Guam families, and it puts Guam kids in the same position that I was in, being a California resident and getting that benefit. You know, they can have that benefit and they can choose, you know, from 150 different schools, and some of the best universities in the U.S. are public schools on this Wichi list. And just to be able to have that opportunity to not be restricted in the type of work that you do, where you're going to live and where you're going to work, to be able to have the freedom to make choices based on what makes you happy and not just how much money you're going to get paid so you can afford to pay back your debt. So I just think that being able to put Guam kids on an even playing field with kids throughout the U.S., you know, is really the right way to go. It's such an immediate benefit to so many people in Guam. It can have such an effect, a long-term effect on their lives, their futures. Give them the freedom to come back to Guam and not have to worry about, you know, the particular salary that they're looking to make when they return, because they're going to have the freedom to choose. And so I thank you again for introducing this, and look forward to seeing all the success stories that are going to result from this great bill that you've introduced. Thank you.
It might have been a long time ago, but when you were clerking at the court, we had one of the young law clerks, I think it was the year that you were there, or maybe the year after, who was only able to do 1 year with us because she had to go work for a bigger firm in the States. Her debt was $190,000, and that was 15 years ago.
I don't remember that particular person, but I know that was the story that I'd heard from a lot of people. And when I went to school in the early 90s, when I graduated, tuitions were not nearly what they are now. So I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
the
no,
burden that they have.
I remember when you were clerking, I thought you left about the same time I did. And so I thought I remembered that one student who wanted to stay but couldn't afford to stay with the salaries here because her debt was $190. And I've been hearing now that there are some with over 200.
They spend the rest of their careers trying to pay back their debt.
Pay that down.
Yeah.
Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Thank you, Senator Rodriguez, for introducing the bill. I've submitted written testimony, and and both young Mr. Jacobs and Mr. Jacobs did a wonderful job of outlining much of what I had there. So at the risk of skipping some of the written testimony, just to highlight, I'm the assistant head of school at St. John's School, but for 18 years I've been the director of college guidance there. So been involved in getting kids into college for a long time and helping them pay. Just a couple of the caveats that Mr. Jacobs outlined is that not all the schools offer all of the majors. Sometimes it's restricted. And I was able to contact some of my colleagues at the other schools on the island and get some interesting information. And in St. John's, our schools, our most popular Western public institutions aren't actually on the list. The University of California and, with the exception of UC Merced's campus, and University of Washington do not participate. But obviously, if we had this tuition benefit at some of the other places, some of those applications would be diverted. In the past 4 years, we've had 3 students attend the participating schools: New Mexico State, Hilo, and Southern Utah University. Notre Dame reports that over the past 5 years, they've had 11 students attend 6 of the participating schools. And I don't actually know which majors those kids are in at Notre Dame. And the other schools, I only spoke to Senator Rodriguez about this weekend, so the other schools haven't gotten their statistics back to me, but I will update you as soon as I get any of those statistics as well. So already that's 14 kids who would be at those schools. The one concern that some might have would be UOG, the impact on UOG. Would our students then leave UOG and try to attend some of these schools? And that's always difficult to say. I did speak to the counselor at Ukadu High School, and Ukadu has a very large enrollment at UOG, one of the largest public schools, high schools that enrolls at UOG. And she's under the belief that, as Mr. Jacobs pointed out, the annual savings at UH Manoa would be about $15,000, which would still mean a cost of $30,000 to attend. So the cost of attendance for an out-of-state kid right now would be about $45,000. So with saving $15,000, the overall cost of attendance would still be $30,000. And there would still be other financial aid that would be available to them. But that still may be too much for some of the kids that we would have in economically depressed areas, and UOG would still be able to have enrollment from those. As President Underwood also pointed out, as did Mr. Jacobs, there's plenty of other programs besides just the Western Undergraduate Exchange with Wichi. And those would include the graduate programs, as you two gentlemen just discussed, the relief on those graduate programs. I know of at least 3 or 4 lawyers here who were at UH Law School, and that could save dramatic amounts of money there. But also the research, access to research, and the access to other programs that would be for administrators and educational management officials, it would be phenomenal as well. So the $72,500 expense, I think, would be easily justified if you look at the savings and the access to other programs that we would have.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your initial research. And I'm sure the Academy can speak for itself, and FD will give you their stats fairly easily, and that should cover just about everybody except for Harvest. But thank you for your testimony. Mr. Hills.
Thank you, Vice Speaker, and good evening, Senator Rodriguez. Thank you for holding this hearing, and to everyone here tonight, thank you for the opportunity to discuss a very important topic that I myself, for the record, my name is Derek Baza Hills. I'm here on behalf of Bill 317-33, and I'm neither in support or opposed to it. What I do have concerns for and suggestions is that attending institutions in the mainland is, as the saying goes, I'm entitled to my own opinion but not my own facts. So attending the institutions on the mainland is a privilege and hardly a right for a large percentage of a lot of local high school graduates, especially those that attend the public high schools. We should prioritize the funding gaps at the University of Guam and the Guam Community College to display a sense of responsibility to the majority of public school and private school students that attend the University of Guam and Guam Community College currently. As I recall, back in 2012, we had to work with Congresswoman Madeline Berdalio to work with Congress to avert a double percentage in the student loan rate from 3.6% to 7%. And then again, back in 2013, we had to work with the Guam legislature and the majority of the senators who supported, along with Speaker Wampat and yourself, Vice Speaker, to avert a tuition hike at the University of Guam from rising by 15%. Now, so with that, I'd like to say that the Guam legislature may or shall seek out a percentage of the families here on island that make an income that can afford institutions that are like those described in the Western Interstate for Higher Education, Wichi. Affordability is key here, and success is a dream. And on behalf of the students of the University of Guam and the Guam Community College, we need to make their dreams a reality a lot sooner than later. We should be working with our congresswomen to seek an inclusion in Wichi through the funding, and I suggest that other than the taxpayers' monies coming out of those whose families, students who work while paying their tuition and pulling double shifts, the single mom and dads who work the midnight oil, that try to afford tuition for their sons and daughters who attend the University of Guam and the Guam Community College. We need to make sure that we here on Guam, again at the legislature, our priority is to make sure that the University of Guam stays the natural choice and the smart choice. I'm not saying that those present here tonight that are in support of the funding and support of the bill that should not have the opportunity to subsidize the cost to attend the institutions off island and the states listed here, but we also need to make sure that any funding that is provided to the university and institutions here in Guam need to be prioritized first and foremost. And with that, I think I need to be brief, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's been a whole thank you. I don't think you have any comment. Good. Thank you very much. A number of people marked their support for the bill. Are there any others out there who wish to provide oral testimony at this time? You're more than welcome to come up. Mr. Palacios. Anybody else? Dr. Elizabeth and Leah Beth. Go ahead. There's another chair over here next to Eric. And you can sit there. Just okay, why don't we start with Dr. Elizabeth and then Dr. Nahaloa and then Eric and then, okay, go ahead.
Maybe, yeah, I'll go first. Good evening, Vice Speaker and Senator Rodriguez, and thank you for allowing us to be here. I'm Dr. Nahaloa. I'm the Project Director for College Pathway Program at the Guam Department of Education. And we are very excited to support this bill. And our question was, why did we only find out about this program now? As you know, this is our second year that we had our college fair, and we provided our students. Last year we had 1,000 participants who attended our college fair, and this year another 1,000. And we exposed them to different colleges. And by knowing this program, we now have an opportunity to explore and explain to our students that there's a lot of opportunities for them to go to college. I myself, I have 140,000 student loan that I have to pay, I guess, until I'm 100. So I hope that our students won't let this my experience happen to them because of this opportunity. And when this opportunity was brought to us by Attorney Jacobs, our counselors, my college fair committee, talked about it and discussed about it, and we were very supportive, and we are going to each counselors from different schools will provide this information to our students so that they will have an opportunity to apply to these schools. And whenever I talk to the students, advise them about college, I always let them know to go to public universities because it's cheaper and they don't have to get into a lot of student debt. So for today, we have our counselor from GW who will provide another testimony in support of this bill, Dr. Rosario.
Good evening, Vice Speaker Cruz and Senator Rodriguez. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Ichihara Rosario. I'm a guidance counselor at George Washington High School. I come to you with an opportunity to provide the students of Guam an amazing chance to pursue post-secondary possibilities. I sit in my office every day and counsel high school students, some who want to go off island, and they are very frustrated and sad because they do not want to burden their parents with financial obligations. They sit there trying to juggle to figure out how they will fund their exorbitant non-resident tuition. My heart aches for these children because they are not only my children, they are all our children. They are bright, amazing students. They could change our island and they could make a difference if they could only find a way to fund their education and pursue their post-secondary careers off-island. What greatness could be achieved? Being a part of Wichi assists in affordable education. Working in the public school system for over 20 years, it is apparent that traveling for higher education is very limited because of the high financial costs. A public high school student finds that pursuing higher education off-island will be greatly assisted through WUI tuition savings. The National Education Association states tuition costs have risen by 225% since 1958. To reiterate the increase of 225% in tuition over the last 60 years, let me give you the number. On average, the cost of an associate degree is $30,000. To most, that is the price of 2 used cars. Now, why would we compare the idea of a car to college tuition? If it takes an average of 5 years to pay off the loan for a car, this would equate to 10 years' worth of debt for a college student. A bachelor's degree costs an average of $45,500. I propose to you a solution to this financial nightmare, Wichi. It reduces the cost for international students to almost 50% of that cost. The number is just shy above the residential tuition. This creates an opportunity for our students to experience the world, afford a higher education, and pacify the anxiety of financial instability. Senator Sanders stated, the cost of college education today is so high that many young people are giving up their dream of going to college, while many others are graduating deeply in debt. Secondly, this is in line with GDOE's State Strategic Plan, a clear vision for education on Guam. This is their #1 goal, that all Guam Department of Education students will graduate from high schools prepared to pursue post-secondary education on or off island. How can our public high school students accomplish this if their financial resources are severely strained? So many of our high school students will be first-generation college students, such as I was. I was also a product of a reciprocity agreement with Hawaii. We won't discuss how long ago that was. But without it, my parents wouldn't have been able to afford to send myself and my sisters to college in Hawaii. We need to offer our students a wider lens to the world so that they may return to Guam with new skills, knowledge, and vision for our island. I will now close by telling you how you will impact my GECO students. My seniors have been so excited discussing the various scenarios of the different colleges. They have been looking at the different colleges and the costs associated. Even with the financial aid topping out at $5,250, it is affordable with WUI rates. What an incredible impact this will have on not just the lives of students, but their families. You are truly making a difference. This is a gift you are handing the children of Guam, a true scholarship, really. Give the students of Guam a fighting chance to a world of opportunity. Allow them to dream. please support this bill. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak on behalf of this bill. Sizuos Maasi.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Speaker Cruz, Vice Speaker Cruz, and Senator Rodriguez. My name is Leah Metra. I'm here to represent the moms, really, that are in favor of having this program set up here in Guam in support of this bill. Today, I stand before you to strongly recommend that Guam be part of this program. I am a proud graduate of the University of Hawaii at Manoa and also took advantage of the tuition decreased tuition at the time that it was made available to students from Guam. Sadly, that's not the case anymore, so I consider myself quite lucky to have been able to finish at the University of Hawaii at a time when the University of Guam was really struggling with our accreditation. I remember this very well, and that's why there were many of us students that left Guam and went to Hawaii and took advantage of that. So I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge that was quite a long time ago. Currently, I am a mother of 2 boys who are attending John F. Kennedy High School. One is a sophomore and one is a senior. So bear with me if I talk a little bit about my children, because I think this is really relevant for what we are trying to prove here to testify. My son Jonathan, the senior, is a gifted, intelligent, award-winning student with a promising future. He is best known, sorry, my voice is going to crack because I'm a mom and I talk about my kids like this. He is best known for his artwork and is even placed internationally in the 2012-2013 Lions Club International Peace Poster Contest, placing 7th among other children from around the world. It was truly a great achievement for Guam and himself. He has a GPA of 4.0 and is active in many extracurricular activities as well as sports, basketball in particular. He has consistently earned high grades in math and science. He's aced his chemistry class and all of his math classes, including Algebra 2 last year, and he's currently taking pre-calculus. He is also treasurer of the chemistry club at JFK. He is on the road to a bright future, and my husband and I have proudly stood by him and supported him during his school years. Those who know him, teachers, fellow students, admire him and all of his talents and achievements. With his achievements and accomplishments, we have seen where his strengths lie, and I have been amazed at how far he has come. As you can imagine, we are looking at what options we have and where to send him for college. The cost of college is extremely high in the top schools that we would like to send him and to have him attend. He has expressed an interest in architectural engineering, and with his technical skills and academic achievements, he is a prime candidate to successfully finish his bachelor's degree in that major. Unfortunately, the reality of funding his education at these top-level schools may not happen. We had considered the University of Guam, but sadly, that major is not offered here. Guam has such an abundance of talented, smart, college-bound students. Many of these students are in the same situation as my son when it comes to selecting a major. There is a lack of majors offered locally for students who want to pursue degrees like architectural engineering. Parents who work hard and prioritize their kids and their education need to be able to have options on how to afford college at an off-island school. What can we do? How can we give our children the best education if we cannot afford it? If I could make it happen, it would cost my son Jonathan $200,000 to send him to the best schools that offer the bachelor's degree in architectural engineering. How is this possible? Grants, scholarships, financial aid are what I am working on to make it happen. It isn't easy. Our island is so underserved in many areas. We need to capitalize on our incredible children that can contribute to Guam and who can earn their degrees off island. These academically gifted students work hard and are assets to our island. Therefore, we should invest in them. This bill will allow families the opportunity to give their children the best education possible by making it affordable to send them to colleges that provide the education they so desire. They are the future of our island, and they will give back in so many ways over and over again. In 2 years, my youngest son, Nicholas, will be in college. You can imagine how that stresses me out. This will be an even more challenging task to be able to afford 2 children in college at the same time. With your support of this bill, parents like myself will feel even more confident that we have done the best job we can do to encourage and support the best and the brightest that Guam has to offer. After all, our children are our future. I ask for your consideration making these dreams a reality. Please support this bill that would provide the means for our children to achieve their goals and make their dreams a reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony on behalf of all the mothers, and I see many of them back there nodding their head and beaming. So,
A lot of them are my friends.
Eric, that's a hard act to follow, but I'll let you.
Very difficult act to follow. Thank you, Vice Speaker. Thank you, Senator Rodriguez. In my official capacity, I serve as Governor Calvo's Special Assistant on Education. And one of the first tasks that I undertook when I assumed that position was to work with Senator Rodriguez and Mr. Jacob to explore the possibility of Guam's membership in Wichi. It didn't take too long for me to see, the number of benefits that would result of Guam's membership, from money circulating in our economy, staying on Guam, attainable and affordable higher education. The list goes on and on. Many people before me have more eloquently stated all the good things that will come out of Guam's membership. I am a proud father of soon-to-be 2 UOG Tritons, and I still see all the benefit that Guam's membership will bring to our island and to the kids, to the students sitting here behind me, and the hundreds who are not here tonight. There are just too many good reasons to not support providing funding so that Guam can become officially a member of Wichi and get off the provisional membership status. And so, with that, I just want to reiterate my support of Guam's membership, and I hope that this body approves or passes the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the service that the 3 of you do in the school as being counselors to our students. Okay, do you have any questions? Okay, thank you. Are there any students? Come on up. I was hoping to hear from some students.
Got you, Mom.
Any other students?
Glenn, you want to go first? Hello?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I apologize if I sound a bit unprofessional. I just found out about this yesterday, so I'm going a bit off of improvising. My name is Luke Bukikosa, and I am a sophomore at GWHS, and I'm here to represent all of the students from public, private, as well as homeschooled. First off, I want to start off with something that my counselor, Dr. Chahara, brought up, which is that the tuition rates have increased by 225% since the 1950s. Now, I know that back in the day, it might not have been expensive, so 225 doesn't sound a lot, but to families these days in high cost of living areas, whether it be here or, just anywhere in general, really, with technology being out, everything's being more expensive. 225% is a lot no matter how much something costs. Next of all is, I'm not here to argue very much with Mr. Hill, who brought up how important UOG and GCC is. But one of the main reasons why I think that our legislature should approve this bill is the availability of majors. I want to start off by reading the bachelors that are available here at UOG, and we have the arts and education, whether it be special, English, fine arts, history, Pacific Asian studies, philosophy, arts and political study, psychology, sociology. We have business administration in accounting and regular. Next, we have biology, science, chemistry, computer science, computer information systems. We have the science of consumer and family sciences, criminal justice, health science, mathematics, nursing, physical education for school health from kinder to 12th grade. we have the Science and Public Administration, Social Work, Tropical Agriculture, Engineering Science, Pre-Law Curriculum, and all of the medical fields from pre-pharmacy and pre-medical. And then we have all of the bachelors available from school's main side, which are anything from forensic work, anthropology, architecture, biological studies, chemistry, literature, education, more than just kinder through 12. It gives you more of an opportunity to widen your scale and come back to Guam and really give more education to the kids in the future. Sorry, it's really cold. I'm shivering. There's also microbiology, and as Mr. Jacob was bringing up, there's also nanobiology, which is one of the very up-and-coming technological education that is very required in today's society. Next is the tuition rates. A out-of-state tuition is normally anywhere from 30 grand to 40 grand for 4 years. That's about 10,000, 15,000 a year, maybe upwards of 20,000. And it nearly halves the price for students with the WUI tuition. So they save up to $10,000 a year. So that's 40,000 for a 4-year. And I know that might not seem much, but to today's society, 40,000 is almost a car. So please keep that in mind. Next of all is a bit of personal experience. My sister, Kana, is currently 24, and she actually had to pass up going to the stateside schools because of the fact that our family is too high for scholarships, but she was not necessarily, I won't say smart enough, but her GPA wasn't high enough to be accepted to be one of the students, in top 10. Because there are those students who are not top 10, but their families are not necessarily low income enough to have these scholarships available to them. Like, I don't want to point any fingers, but let's say the kids at Academy, the kids at FD, the kids at Harvest, their parents normally, I won't say all of them because some of them got in through scholarship, but normally make a higher average than kids at public school. And because of that, normally they aren't able to get the scholarships that are given to low-income families. But some of them are not necessarily, I won't say intelligent enough, but they didn't rank high enough in their class of such smart and bright students of their year in such a competitive, I guess you could say, environment. Because you have a body of almost 150 students challenging for 10 spots. And out of the 10, maybe only 3. How many of them actually get the scholarship? And how much of the money, or how much of the tuition does the scholarship actually cover? So please keep that in mind. Thank you.
For someone who was unprepared and claiming to be unprofessional, I think Mr. Jacobs is ready to hire you for his firm. If you don't, we'll have to grab him someplace else, Rodney. But that was excellent presentation. Young man, please, you can turn that off. It's a good thing you brought your jacket.
Okay. Hello, Vice Speaker and Senator. I'm Glenn Aguilar. I'm currently a senior at George Washington High School. So yes, in a few months, I will be going off to college. My testimony is actually more on a personal note. So currently, I did say I am a senior, and I'm also the vice president of our environmental club, Marine Mania. I am the treasurer of the class council. I am also a member of the National Honor Society. So among that, I do keep up with my grades. I get straight A's, and I do participate in sports. So as you can see, I'm a very active person, but that is all in hopes of getting some sort of scholarship to go to an off-island college, because although the University of Guam is a more than acceptable college, they don't they don't offer the major which I wish to pursue, which is engineering. They only have a pre-engineering course. So yes, I'm forced to think of off-island choices to attend higher education. And also, I am not the first person in my family to go to college. Already I have a sister in college. She's now 21 and she's going on her third year at the Art Institutes in Orange County. And already since before day one, I understood the struggle my parents were going through. Already I could see the change which we had to adjust to, since we were already paying for my sister's tuition and room and board and all of her other expenses. And it just recently it came to the point where I had to contribute just a little bit, just so that she was able to just live, pretty much. So yes, it has become a struggle on my family, so that is why I do support this bill, because ultimately it's probable that I may not be able to cover my entire cost of attendance for college off island, but I do hope that Wichi will help in this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other student? All of you have sat here an hour and a half and nobody wants to speak? Madam First Lady, do you wish to speak or no? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Any of the teachers? I know my niece went to academy, so I can recognize some of the teachers back there. And principal? No? Did you want to come back up, Rodney? Okay, thank you very much, young man.
I just wanted to address one timing issue, is that now it's October 1st on Saturday, and this is prime time for college applications. And so if there was any way that the legislature could consider this so that this year's students could know that applying to the Wichi schools is a realistic option for them, I think it would be important, because the college application deadlines usually run around January 1st. January 1st. So it's this time period in which the class of 2017 really has to be making their decisions about applications for next year. And one thing Senator Rodriguez asked me is what happens to kids that are in the system, is that's very much up to the institution to decide whether they're going to get the benefits, say when they're sophomores. So I would just like to urge the legislature to consider this before January 1st so that our students will know that they can apply to these institutions and avail of the benefits.
No, I can appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
I wasn't being rude. I was trying to find a text. My sister sent me. She said my mother had kept all my mail that I had received when I was in college, and one of the letters that was saved from 1970 and maybe 1969 was a typed note from my sister, saying that enclosed is the $10 for your week.
Oh, that's great.
And I saved it, and so I just wanted to share that with the kids. That I don't know about the 200. It's gone up a lot more than 225%. I don't know whose statistics those were, but it was 225 from when I went to school, and that was not in the 50s. Thank you, Leah Beth. But The other thing that I wanted to suggest to all of you is last night, go to pbs.org and pull up Frontline from last night. There was a hour and a half presentation on candidates for 2016 and talking about the debt that students are. And one of the stats that I almost fell out of bed while I was watching it was, what do you think the main concern of most students going to college is? Their number one concern is?
Money.
Food.
Oh, food. Yeah, food.
No, because they're just not able to eat. And one of the stats that they had was that, I can't remember what the number was. I'll have to pull it up myself again to get it. But for kids going to community colleges in the States, a huge percentage of them are homeless.
Yeah.
I'm the stat. So if you want to know how lucky we are, pull up some of this, watch that Frontline story from last night. It was excellent. But thank you all very much for coming, and to all the teachers and principals and counselors, thank you for all that you do for our students. And to all the young people that are here, keep up the good work. Make your parents proud, your school proud, and your teachers proud, and our island proud. And remember, regardless of whether or not it's a Wichi scholarship or anything, come back to Guam. Okay? Thank you very much. Oh, wait, what has a closing statement?
Just thank you again, Mr. Chairman, for allowing this to happen tonight. And to all of you, really thank you. To the students, gosh, you really inspired me, with especially the last two gentlemen here who spoke. Really inspired me in the work that we're doing for this. This has been quite some time in just... It took some emotion out because you didn't know really where people stood. You knew the bigger picture. If you look at the bigger picture, this is something that's really good for our community. But some of the other concerns that were brought up early on, which were legitimate too, and what this may do to our University of Guam, was something that I had to also think and be able to make that, to consider that. But really looking at the bigger picture, and Mr. Lujan, he said it right. He says, when we talk about keeping, hiring our own people, but we end up bringing people from off island. So maybe this is the opportunity. We get our kids to get that opportunity out off island, and you guys came back. Well, that's the agreement with our daughter. My wife and I have with our daughter. She's in complete her 2 years here in pre-pharmacy, and when she goes, the deal is you must come back. We will support you and help you as much as we could, but you have to come back. And we made her sign that in blood, as the Vice Speaker would always say, right? But again, thank you so much. We'll work with the Vice Speaker in trying to get this moved as soon as possible. Thank you, Mr. Jacob, too. Thank you.
We stand adjourned.